Men, are you one of those absolute lunatics, about the age of 40, 50, maybe 60-year-old, and for whatever reason you are contemplating doing a marathon? With no training, you contemplate doing an Ironman. With no previous training history or anything, you've just got fed up after years of abuse and decided that a marathon is something that's going to help fill a void in your soul. Right, in this video we're going to be talking about endurance, and my promise to you is I'm going to go over the typical massive issues with endurance training. I'm going to go through the solutions to them issues, and then I'm going to send you on your way. Short and sharp, gentlemen. The importance of not getting this wrong is, as we get older, our endurance muscle fibres stay the same, but our muscle fibres responsible for strength, power and speed start to diminish. Overloading the training of endurance doesn't correct the issue, but also prioritising endurance training doesn't really strengthen our muscles and joints. So I have a bit of an issue with it. However, if you can correct that issue, then you can do all the endurance you want, because endurance is absolutely amazing for training the mind. Who the hell am I? My name is Paul Green and I'm an online coach. I run the longevity program. I'm a former British paratrooper and Special Forces support group operator. In my time, I have trained thousands of elite men across the fence, including those in the RAF, the Royal Marines and the Parachute Regiment. What I have seen is men over 40 that fall short of this issue all the time. They overload themselves with endurance, with running up and down hills, 10 milers, with kit on their back, and they sometimes neglect their strength training and the strengthening of their joints. What happens to their body is it starts to age very fast. Without strong structures surround the joints, you lose mobility quickly, you lose strength quickly, and your joints become extremely sore. So anyway, hopefully I offer a unique perspective on all these matters, and my words add a little bit more weight than your average lunatic on the internet. Right, straight into this, gentlemen. So, what is endurance? Endurance is strength over a long period of time. The typical mistakes is that, anyway, I'm going to go into these. This is what I'm going to go into. So, I'm going to talk about what is endurance. I'm laughing about this subject because people get it wrong all the time. Typical mistakes, the solutions to the mistakes, and job done. The odd slide, I'm going to have this. Because if this is the reason you're doing endurance, you're fighting an uphill battle. Because you see it all the time, and you probably laugh as I said you're watching this video. How many of your mates do you know that have just went, you know what, I'm going to do a marathon? And everyone's just like, what are you doing? And listen, right, I'm all for physical training, right, but what do you think this person's going to do after that marathon? You know, are they going to get injured in the training of it? What afterwards? Anyway, stop beasting the endurance, man. Right. So you can see by my energy, I'm in a daft mood. You know, I'm laughing and joking because I just see this happening all the time. Endurance definition. Let's just get myself on the internet. There you go. Let's see what they've got. My definition was there you go. The ability to endure an unpleasant or difficult process or situation without giving way. So you can see the benefits to it, right? Denoting or relating to a race or another sporting event that takes place over a long distance, or otherwise demands greater physical stamina. This ties in nicely with muscular endurance. Muscular endurance is kind of what I was going about earlier on, which is muscular endurance is how long a muscle group can perform repeated contractions without getting fatigued. So that's what I was alluding to. Just bang this up. So there's the definition of endurance. In the real world, endurance is just, like it is going and going and going for a set period of time. This is okay, right? And I'm a massive advocate for endurance training when the goal is to train the mind. If you want to achieve like some really mental resilience, high levels of mental resilience, and give yourself an escape, and just really zone out of everything, endurance training is absolutely amazing. But people get it wrong. So examples of endurance training. Let's see what Google brings up. Just to change your view, your eyes, give you something to focus on, make it more enjoyable for you. See, I said view there and I typed view. Endurance sports. So we've got mountain biking here, that looks like adventure running. The classical examples of running, swimming, cycling, summer sports, skiing, cross-country skiing, definitely a great one, that's absolutely nails. And other winter sports, let's see what... No, I'm not getting into that. Top endurance sports, weightlifting, martial arts, boxing. Talking shit. Google's talking shit. Standard. Right, have my cookie. See you in a bit. Give me some endurance sports. Wow, orienteering. Nice one, that. So orienteering, triathlon, rowing, water polo, ultimate, swimming, ultra marathons, road cycling, squash and boxing. Basically, anything that has it's a good camera, that. Anything that has your body working at a sustained period for an extended period of time. Now that extended period of time, like it says in boxing there, could be 2 minutes. Muscular strength tends to drop off at about 30 to 45 seconds. And then after that you start trickling into the endurance world. And the thing is with endurance is it can go on from anywhere between 60 seconds all the way on to 24 hours. Move my face out of the way. So the mistakes. I have seen these mistakes by their hundreds. Men, I swear to God, right? I swear to God. So, one of the parachute regiment fitness tests at week 20 of your basic training is a massive endurance training test week, and it's one of the hardest test weeks in the whole world of military training. Every event is endurance based. So it's fair to say, probably not at the moment, I'm not an endurance athlete at the moment, but throughout most of my career, I was endurance focused. We had to run up and down hills with kit on our back for 1 hour 50, we had to run up and down hills and do it a little bit faster over a shorter distance. Again, without kit, with a telegraph pole, with stretchers, all sorts of muscular endurance, right? And what happens when there's a high focus on endurance? The joints just get absolutely destroyed because of the high impact that endurance training puts on the joints and the muscles. So what do you think? What do you think? Leave them in the comments. What do you think you can do to eradicate this issue or help with this issue? So we've got a calculator here, and this calculator aims to highlight a point about endurance. So let's say, for example, even though you're entering this rabbit hole of endurance and you're probably going to, satisfy your midlife crisis and hopefully not get your missus to divorce you because you're doing a marathon, which is great. I'm very, very happy. Let's just say, for argument's sake, that you can squat 70 kilos for 1 rep, right? And that's your current strength level. Now, because you've got an endurance goal, you're going to probably train endurance in order to support that goal. That's just a fair thing to be doing. Do you think, with all of your endurance training, your squat 1 rep max is going to stay the same? And now we have entered on this crazy mission of endurance training, where we're going to be running most days and we're going to be trying to improve our aerobic fitness and our muscular endurance. Do you think that that 1 rep max squat of 70 kilograms is going to maintain at that level? Or is it going to get worse? Is it going to drop off a cliff? The reason I'm saying this is because running works different muscles to the squat movement, and therefore it would be reasonable to assume that your squat is going to kind of diminish. So would it be fair to assume that your strength level is going to actually go down? And if your strength level goes down, are your joints getting weaker as well? The reason I'm saying this is because this is the scary thing about people that do endurance without a little bit of brain power. Not slagging you off, lads. Honestly, I'm just people that haven't got the knowledge. They just go all in on a goal, and you have to be very careful. You can kind of go all in, but you just have to do a couple of little things in the background which will support this endurance mission. So what I'm saying is the mistakes I've seen is people will just do endurance, right? They will just do endurance, and their joints, and see that 1RM example that I said, 70 kilogram 1RM, that will slowly go down. So their joints and their muscles will get weaker. Weaker muscles, like we're going on about muscular endurance, is your ability to be strong over a set period of time. Now, if your strength goes down, what do you think happens to that endurance? So if your endurance is improving, because I can now do 2 hours, I can now do 2.5 hours, but your strength just went down. So then you get slower. And why is this? Because our strength went down. So you start to see where I'm going with this, gentlemen. You have to hit the strength sessions, the point I'm making, and that's why I'm saying strength. You have to continue, you don't have to get strong because your goal's endurance, but you have to continue to maintain the strength of your joints, because if you don't have strong joints, they are gonna just fail. But the double knock-on effect of this is, if your muscles and joints are getting weaker, then your endurance is going to get worse. you might see like your Mo Farahs and stuff like that in the gym, off season or pre-season or whatever, and they're doing the gym work, they're beasting themselves. However, when it gets to the more elite level, they have to be very cautious about how much weight they put on, how much muscle mass they put on, because they want to be as light as possible. So it gets a bit more fine-tuned at the top level. But for you, honestly, make sure the strength training remains as part of your program. Because if you don't do it, you are going to get injured. I swear to God, you might get lucky, right? But more strength, think about it. More strength, let's say for example, right, you've got a high amount of strength. Your body is really strong, both lower body, both upper body. You've got a really strong core. You make the shift, midlife crisis. You make the shift to a crazy endurance event, and now your strength is going to start slowly declining because you're not doing the strength anymore. But your strength's slowly declining, but your endurance is going up. Can you do anything to slow that decline of strength? Maybe can you just do one full body strength session per week while you're prioritising your endurance? See what I'm saying with this? This is really important because your strength, if you don't train it, will drop off a cliff. But I'm not bothered about like the strength of the muscles, like random biceps and stuff. I'm bothered about the strength of your joints. A greater level of strength, especially the strength around the surrounding structures of the joints, will improve your resilience. It will improve your body's ability to cope with the demands that you place on it. And it sounds daft, but when you're slapping tarmac, bang, 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 all these little micro vibrations that are going through your joints, the stronger that muscle is to cope with that, then it's just pretty obvious, isn't it? It's just going to be like, yeah, cheers. Yeah, cheers. I'm not running with weight. I'm strong. I'm proper strong. An example of this is, like, when I was training people to be paratroopers in the British Army, 5 years ago, as I said, they've got 20 weeks to get to a ridiculously high endurance 20-week in a 20-week period. Passed that test, happy days. They are now pretty much baby paratroopers. They're at the standard physically to jump out of a plane with kit and then, frigging absolutely destroy the enemy. That's an endurance mission. But the start of the course, for the first 4 to 6 weeks, we are laying the foundations of strength. So then when they go onto the training area and they're going up and down hills with kit, fast, slow, building their endurance, building their muscular endurance, they've actually got a strength base in order to absorb them demands when they're doing their endurance stuff. Can you not see the train wreck that is about to happen? Do you know what I mean? It blows my mind that people don't see this and they wonder why. Here's a question for you. When you go for a run, and where do you feel it? Where do you feel it when you go for a run? Let's say, for example, you went for a run up and down some hills. Where do you feel it? Do you feel it in your heart and lungs? So there's one or two things that will happen. You either feel it in your legs, or you'll feel it in your heart and lungs. If you feel it in your legs, you haven't got adequate strength levels in your legs in order to cope with them demands, that type of terrain, or run at that type of speed. If you feel it in your heart and lungs, it's just cardio, it's just your fitness. But if you are strong, usually it's the heart and lungs. When you make that transition into the midlife crisis, if you've got the strength there, it's usually the heart and lungs. Obviously, when you start building the distance and stuff like that, the endurance will start to cause dramas to your legs. The requirements of endurance, anyway. What I'm saying is obvious. Do you know what I mean? Don't need to repeat myself too much. Gentlemen, as you can probably imagine, I love doing this stuff. So if you do like it yourself, stick around. Click that subscribe button and I'll see you tomorrow. Make sure that you don't miss out on any of my glorious daily uploads. Right, to summarise, if you are adamant on this endurance mission, there is something called the 80-20 rule, and this is bread and butter stuff for endurance training. Most endurance coaches, high-level endurance coaches, are massive advocates of this way of training. It means that 80% of your mileage is really slow. 20% of your mileage is really fast. And when I say really slow, I mean people say talking pace. Now I say singing pace. You need to be going. Typically, when people do endurance stuff, they go too fast because you've got no awareness of what fast, what slow is. You see a hill, you increase the speed of the hill. You're listening to music. Your favourite song comes on, you start sprinting. Stupid. Honestly, stupid. Emotions, take them out of the equation. Singing pace. 80% of your mileage, weekly mileage, singing pace. Don't skip your 20% sessions. That is really short distance and you're absolutely sending it. Why is the 20% so important as well? Like I've just alluded to, people tend to miss out the strength. Now, could you argue that going extremely fast for a short period of time is you improving your running strength? Do you know what I mean? There's definitely an argument to be made for that. Whether this is hills, whether this is just, again, a really short distance but speed. Because you are running faster, there's more muscle contractions, there's improved range of motion. When you're running fast, you're moving your arms more, you're moving your core more, you're moving your hips more, you're moving your knees more. Your legs are working so much more than when you were at singing pace. You've always got two types of benefit which is happening when you're doing endurance. It's either heart and lungs or it's muscular endurance. When you're doing your 80%, it's pure efficiency. You're training pure efficiency. You do not want to be blowing it. You do not want to be feeling it in your legs at all. You want to be so light on your feet, burning as minimal calories as possible. And then obviously this is a little bit different. with that in mind, what I like to do is, say if it's an 80-20 rule, 4 of my running sessions in a week will be singing pace, 1 will be really hard. That's 5 running sessions per week. You can manage that because of how slow this 80% is. And then I'd have one full body. I'll have one full body weight session in there, just to give me that security of my joints, that my joints will be able to absorb this crazy midlife crisis that I'm currently going through. Yeah, keep your joints strong while you're training. Endurance, because I've seen it. Gents, I'm not just saying this, by the way, right? The amount of hip injuries I've seen, the amount of knee injuries that I've seen, the amount of times I've seen shin splints. Honestly, you could message me, right, and ask me to speak to you about injuries with endurance, with paratroopers. Paratroopers are the most high endurance athletes in the British Army. Aerobic endurance, muscular endurance. What do you think the typical physical state of a paratrooper is? Do you think they're like? Do you think they look like this, or do you think they look like this? Honestly, typically, and honestly, I love my mates in the reg massively, but it takes them a huge culture shift to go away from the endurance into the strength, because they're so endurance focused. They love endurance gym sessions. They love just getting the weight on the back and just sending it for miles and miles and miles on end. They're all in. They're all in individuals, and it's only a select few that do both. But if endurance is the priority, that's great. But just do not neglect strength. Gentlemen, that's it from me.